Good morning, man. Thank you so much for having me. I know I delayed you way too
No
many
worries.
times. But glad to be here, man. Happy to share
Absolutely.
whatever I know from the insides of the program to the people out there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kshitij. So, a fun fact is that Kshitij and I used to work in the same floor at MasterCard back in Pune, but we never really met each other until we got accepted into Colombia. So, yeah, that's crazy. That's like a fun story that we have. So,
That's what a hybrid does, right? Like you never
yeah,
know, you
yeah,
never know who's where, and you're all part of the same thing.
for sure. We were working for 2 days from the office, so I think probably either the 2 days were different or like we never really bumped
Even if
into
they
each
were,
other.
we did not know that about each other
Correct.
existing. Like, yes, so.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you
yeah.
knew my manager, you knew Binod, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Okay, so Kshitij, the first thing I want to ask you is like, you've got a couple of months to graduate. It's been a semester and a half at Columbia. So, what is your favorite thing about Columbia? Like, what should people be excited about coming to Columbia?
I think there's so many things, right? Like in terms of the people we meet, the guest lectures which come, but one thing that kind of stood out to me was the plethora of clubs these guys have. I don't know if you got exposed to it, but I did in my first sem.
Hmm.
And if you remember, in fall every year, I think during the month of first week of September, they do like this whole club fair like thing in front of Butler,
Correct,
leading all the way till low, and you find
correct,
clubs for everything. It could be like for carbon dating of rocks, or for like simple things like swimming, jiu-jitsu, sports, to like
right,
glow painting or things. They have a club for everything. This is what I tell everyone I speak with, is that you
right.
could find any interest of yours, and there would 99% be a club for it. If it's not, you and your friends can start it. So that was
Crazy.
good. I think the
Right.
other thing that takes Colombia to the next level is the fact that all these things that we get to do from different departments really is something that is on the next level, right? Like I wouldn't have expected to meet the people I met in New York, or even our guest lecturers who travel from around the US to come visit us. I don't think I would have got that at other schools per se. So there's a few things.
Makes sense. I mean, yeah, you really pointed out some really interesting things that a lot of people have been talking about in the podcast as well. The kind of people you meet here and the diversity of meeting people from different schools, especially, not just like
Yeah,
your engineering people or for you like the SPS people, folks from business, folks from journalism and all that stuff. That's something that's not very easy to get.
absolutely.
So Kshitij, why don't you just talk about, what you did before your master's? What was that journey like, and like, why you decided to take the master's route? What was that?
Sure, man. So I'll actually walk you through my journey right from college, right? So I did my
Sure.
undergrad from Manipal, Jaipur in India. Did it in electronics and communication engineering. Realized by the second year that I'm more towards the tech side of things in terms of being more on the software when I say tech. So I got
Mhm.
into data analysis through my second internship. The first internship was IoT, and even on IoT side, I was actually doing a lot of the analysis of our IoT devices. So just somehow traveled in that side of data, did my internships again in data. So kind of left, abandoned electronics while being an electronics engineer, right?
Right.
Did that, worked at a startup as a data engineer. So it's like a promotion in itself, right? Going from a
Right.
business analyst to a data analyst to a data engineer,
For
and
sure.
then and then worked hardcore on the product, building new features and their backend data models, and then transitioned to Mastercard again as a data engineer. So a lot of my experience was all on the backend tech, and I worked very closely with software guys, right? So I
Hmm.
saw all of that, and then I saw that, hey man, this is really, really, really good. But if I was to imagine myself and propel myself in the future, like even if you try projecting an image of how you want to be when you're probably 5 years, 6 years, 10 years down the line, do you want to just be a guy who's working with code, or would you rather have a little more people management under you? So I kind of felt towards the latter side. I'm like, hey man, of course I would love to be in a place where I don't just have to be the guy who is an individual contributor via his skills when it comes to tech, but it should also be a mix of regulating tech, also mixing tech. And I thought product management seems like a good avenue to explore. So I started researching about that. Once I started researching about that is when all these programs also came into play, because I'd always been pushed by my parents to consider a master's, and that's how those those experiences amalgamated into coming to a master's journey. So did a lot of research on which colleges to do. There were tons of colleges which had MIS. It's a very famous program. I'm sure you've heard of it. Masters in Information Systems, right? So that was a big competitor to technology management. And then there's MEM as well, which here it was called MSc. The funny story is here I did not know that they have an MEM because I thought MSc falls under the IEOR school. So I thought it was an industrial engineering course, right? So a big flaw from my end in researching that about Columbia. But yeah, so broadly speaking, to answer your question, that's how I explored and that's how I came to the journey and the conclusion that, hey, coding is great and I still will do it even if I graduate now and I'm looking for roles. I'm looking for roles where I can be somewhat of a Python coder, somewhat of a guy who's building data models myself because I enjoy it and that's fun. But longer term, I would love to be in that driving seat where you're making sure that the latest tech or latest technology out there is being integrated into the business model. And that's why this course, that's why tech management. And yeah, I'm here now.
Awesome, awesome. I think that answers all the questions that I had and I was going to have as well. So that's awesome. So Kshitij, just to give you a bit of context, we've had people from like CMU's MISM, you watched MSIM, even a person from Columbia's MSc on this podcast. So if you're watching this and you want to know more about like other product management routes you can take, please do check out those episodes.
Absolutely.
Kshitij, another question I had was the person from UWash MSIM who was on the podcast, and even the girl from Columbia who's doing her MSc, decided to do product management even before like they started their course. So, what was that factor for you that made you pick up technology management at a master in technology management rather than an information systems or like a MEM program?
All right, so I think the biggest differentiator directly about the MEM program versus tech management or MIS versus tech management is that the tech management is already tailored up for you because MSc you
Mm-hmm.
have to really pick your pick, right? And even if
Right.
you talk about MSc in general, I realized this later in the later half of my application cycle, is that what does MSc mean or MEM mean? Let's go into the full form. It means Masters of Engineering and Science, so MSc, and
Mm-hmm.
MEM is Masters of Engineering Management. That
Right.
basically means that you are going to be managing some engineering unit. ठीक है? For
Mm-hmm.
example, a lot of people need engineering supervisors in supply chain offices,
Right.
right? Or take a chemical factory. You need someone who knows what's happening, but also needs to know the operations and deliver that. Okay, at the end of the day, we did produce 10,000 units. They did get shipped. Those
Mm-hmm.
are the type of people who get into MEM because 90% of the course is made for people who want to be managers at an engineering unit. And when they say engineering unit,
A
people get,
generic.
yeah, it's engineering for the core engineering. When you think about 1990s or 1900s when engineering the term was coined, it was for
Mm.
people who were actually physically going down in the caves and digging. Like even our mud building, why does it have those hammers? It's
Right.
because engineering was a physical thing. So that's what MEM is tailored for across what I saw, even across. I got accepted in Johns Hopkins and Cornell too, and that's what I
Mm.
was seeing the theme be. But you're right, a lot of students get into that, and so was I, because electives, right? So your electives, given that you get a broad set of schools to pick from, including computer science, a lot of students pick it from there. So they self tailor their course to be a mix of both management plus instead of the hardcore engineering, they make it more software engineering. So
Mm.
they make it more computer science driven. That's what MEM does. MIS, I'm probably not so sure because when I was looking at it, I just looked at the one at Carnegie Mellon, CMU, which seemed like a great program. And I think that is more closer than an MEM, as far as I know. I think that lines up a little more better, if you ask me. So MIS is also a good way to move into product management compared to MEM on general. Why I picked tech management was because tech management in New York here at Columbia seemed like the best way to find a great opportunity at both New York-based startups as well as established companies. So as I'm sure you know that a lot of other guests might have also told you this, is that the ecosphere here of tech management in finance is really broad. So we get companies who are here in managing like big portfolios, right from your BlackRock to your small firms, which we don't know their names about, but they are also looking for guys who can come and like, manage not only their portfolio platforms, but also their teams. So I actually have some seniors who basically are like just gone out of the program and within 6 months running teams of, accountants sometimes managing teams of entry level engineers. So they already have that type of segue to propel themselves towards. That was the reason I chose this program over the MEM more
Makes sense.
solidly.
For sure. So, I think I get the idea. Like the idea I'm getting right now is that when someone's looking product management, what the MTM at Columbia offers is a straightforward path for moving into product management in technology rather than an MEM or even the MISM, right? At CMU, I think you've got to pick the product management specialization, pick electives in that direction. Only then can you steer your career in that way. But MTM by default offers that route. Would that be a correct statement to make?
Yeah, so that's broadly a correct statement to make because the
Mhm.
MTM also not only just product management, it also offers you anything and everything required to be a technical leader in a
Got
tech
it.
company. Any company which is trying to go through a technical innovation. For example, take a really old company which never adopted to, the latest trends, and you were
Mhm.
appointed there as somewhat of a, senior director or somewhat of a management personality over there, right? You would be responsible to take that company to making sure that they are integrating with the latest tech. Like if their ecosystem was an Oracle ecosystem, right? If they're still using Oracle sites, how you can transition them to come on self-driven JavaScript sites, or basically make sure that they're using more how do I say for example, their payment software, in making sure that their payment software processing is more robust. Doing everything to make sure that a company is onto the latest trends is also what the course is tailored towards. Product management just happens to be something that 90% of the people in the class want to do. So the course kind of tailors to that by default. But if you look at the course website, it will go on the lines of making sure that you work as a CTO in the future, how you integrate blockchain when you have to, how you integrate AI when you have to, when do you really need hardcore software engineering skills to be implemented, right? So it covers that and also gives you a little bit of it in courses. So our last term, which is really management driven, where we did a lot of management courses, right? Right from accounting and finance to a course called Strategic Advocacy, where you take a challenge that a company is facing and how you can implement and find solutions out of it, right? It could be any challenge. It could be a dying company. It could be a company which is struggling with, saturation in terms of the products that it's releasing and none of the products are kicking in the market. How can you make sure that there is some penetration? Those type of issues were what we discussed in the first semester, along with a couple of other courses, which maybe we can get into as we speak. And then now this course is more on terms of the AIML, more on terms of using data, right? The different technologies. Like I don't know how often anybody would have thought about nanotechnology, but we had a class dedicated to understanding why nanotechnology could also be implemented by companies and how it could be. So yeah, those are a few things that we cover. And me personally, as you already know, is that since I come from a data background, I'm trying to keep that going through our common course in the AIML applied with Mr. Vijay Papu. So
For
that's
sure.
something that I'm doing personally too.
Awesome, awesome. I think the breadth of the opportunities you spoke about was interesting, and that was going to be my next question. What are the possible career paths that students can take after the program? And I think we usually spoke in depth about that. That's awesome.
Yep.
So Kshitij, when you were applying for the MEM, MISM, and like all these programs, was Columbia the only one with this kind of a program, the MTM program, or were there other schools
Oh
also
no,
that
there
had?
were definitely other schools which had it too. Uh,
Hmm.
I think UIUC has a tech management program. Then my intention initially was towards Johns Hopkins and Cornell too, because I didn't assume that I'd get into Columbia,
Hmm.
because I personally thought that I probably wouldn't clear the application cycle or the selection process that they would have had set. I mean, I have usually very low expectations for myself,
For
so
sure. Fair
yeah,
enough. Fair enough.
I,
Yeah.
I I I never thought I'll make it.
Right.
And so, like to answer your question, for sure, there are some other courses across the states. which
Mm-hmm.
have technology management, and they also have MEM courses, which I was looking at, which you can tailor. So my way around it was 90% of it was MEM, right?
Got it.
So yeah, so there's nothing wrong in the MEM course at all. It's just the fact that you should know what it's for, but know how you
Right.
can take it to your advantage. So I got to know later on that, oh fuck, it's actually for somebody who's trying to run an engineering unit. Correct. I got to know that later once I spoke to a lot of alumni and current students in the program at Johns Hopkins and Cornell. The other program which I was looking at was, I told you, the UIUC one. There's another one at Dartmouth. The MEM Dartmouth is really famous. The one at Duke is really famous. So
Correct.
Duke one is probably, even now after coming to Columbia, the things that I've heard about Duke somehow still makes me feel that Duke's MEM is so much more tailored towards being one of the best product managers, or at least in terms of the students who end up as product managers versus students here who end up as product managers. Duke beats us any day, right? Like if a student comes to me and says, "Hey, Kshitij, I got into Duke as well as Columbia," I'd be like, "Dude, take Duke, but if you want to like take a chance and enjoy New York a little more, then come to Columbia
I mean,
because
I've heard
Duke's."
like opposing views on that because I've heard Duke's batch size has become insanely large. Like they've got about
Oh, that
800
I would not
students
know.
this now. So they've got 800 students now. So if you look at numerically, I think more product management would just by default come out of there. But beyond that, I'm not too sure.
Oh
But I've
yeah,
heard
numeric.
Dartmouth's,
Yeah, that's right. Stats wise, you're right. If you have 800
yeah,
people, there's obviously going to be more
yeah, even
PMs
10%
coming
is
out.
80. So that would probably be the whole size of the MTM program here.
Yeah, our
So
whole class size is like 75 people.
exactly, exactly. So, I mean, Duke was really selective a couple of years ago, but they got to know that, a lot of students are opting for the MEM. So, as you know, all the master programs are like a milking cow, right? So,
I know.
they're like, let's just make our class as bigger. And for sure, even Dartmouth's MEM is really good. We had, I think, the second or third guest on this podcast who was from Dartmouth MEM, and she was talking about why she picked that and how she's moving to product management through that route. So,
No,
people who want to
Dartmouth is
explore that,
amazing. Dartmouth
right?
rejected
Yeah.
me too, so they
Right.
are pretty
Dartmouth's super
amazing.
selective. It's a very small school. I've heard it's like
Yeah,
50, 60
they
students.
they're even smaller
Yeah.
than Columbia, dude.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
like
yeah,
probably
yeah.
60 people. And the best part about
Correct.
Dartmouth's MEM, I don't know why we're discussing Dartmouth in the Columbia call, is the fact, but the
Right.
fact that they are so good begs the
Okay.
question that we
For
should
sure.
discuss them. Is the fact that
Right.
they have like every student gets assigned one alumni or one coach
Right.
to
I've
help
heard
them, one
correct.
personal career coach, man. Like
Right.
I don't see Columbia doing that even for business school people.
For sure. Yeah, 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 yeah. That makes sense. That does make sense. It is more challenging when you have a larger batch size. And plus, Dartmouth obviously has the location disadvantage which plays at its
That's true.
advantage.
Hanover.
So, yeah. So,
Yeah,
there's nothing you can really do but like, interact with people around you, your college people, stuff like that. New York is too large, and like you just get out, you're like out of Columbia, out of, the whole education
I know,
sphere and stuff
man.
like that. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, yeah, those are like the advantages and disadvantages of location again.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so going back, Kshitij, so when you got accepted into the MTM program at Columbia, did you at any point, like, feel that you did something in particular during your process, like your career, your journey, your as a data engineer, data analyst, business analyst? Do you think that played any key role in your in you getting your admit? Was there something that you thought was pivotal?
Are you asking me what I think was the differentiating factor
For
for my
sure. Yep,
application?
yep, yep, yep.
So I think, yeah, one of them could have been the fact that I had my own small startup thing which I'd done for Manipal,
Wow. Okay,
right?
interesting.
So at Manipal we had seen like a big problem in finding academic material.
Mm-hmm.
So we just by the gumption just decided to like start something called MEXT, which stood for Modern Education Times Technology, right? Pretty
Mm-hmm.
naive name, but we just went ahead with it, and we built a platform where we took all the academic. We actually put the effort of finding all the academic papers from previous years of every department of every course, and we put it up online so students can download it and prepare. Because we used to see that, hey, before the midterms, before the NSEMs, not just us, but even our second year guys, our third year guys were running to their seniors and asking them, do you have the last year question papers, right? Because question types obviously are something that you can study and prepare for. So we saw a little bit of that happening, and not a little bit, we saw that happening like crazy. That's why we decided, hey, let's just build it and see what happens. So we did that. pitched it to Manipal. Manipal really liked it. They funded us. They incubated us within Manipal, and then they asked us to grow it to other colleges too. So we tried growing it to two other colleges, and we actually did. And along the way, the product became more than just a platform on which you can find papers. It became a place for people to discuss questionnaires. Where I saw that the people were requesting that there needs to be more just by talking to people, just by seeing that survey that they used to fill out for our feedback. And we immediately, in 1.5 months, built a forum feature where it's like a personalized forum. So you can choose if you have a doubt in, let's say, an electronics topic, analog systems, you can choose to put a question and then you can filter who can answer. You can say if you put no filters, anyone across the campus can answer. If you put can be answered only by a third year, it would see which year you're in and then make sure to give it to only 1 year above you. So only a third year senior can answer. Or for that matter, anyone and everyone, right? Like you can choose your filters on it. So build a forum for people to discuss things, build a holistic platform by adding everything that's happening on campus. So a page where you're seeing what's in the dinner menu today, what's in the lunch menu, which vendor is open. So Wadilal ice cream was on our campus, Domino's, what timings are they open, what are their numbers,
I
when
can
is the
see why
medical
it was so important for sure.
yeah, like
Yeah.
when is the medical office? What are the hours of operation for the medical office? When is the Pizza Hut closing? Like everything, the details of every vendor started coming. All the events. When is the next football game Manipal is
Did you
playing?
guys
When is the
replace your
dance
Manipal
competition?
website by any chance? You
We
fixed your
didn't.
website
Yeah,
because
we didn't even think it would be such a big market, and our platform
right.
started getting a lot of traction and broke down. So that's when we went and we started actually, asking Manipal that hey, you should incubators because a lot of students are using it. We literally made a presentation showing like we had 2000, proper logins a day, right? 2000 logins in a campus of like 8000 people. So that's like 25%
That's
people are like
crazy penetration,
logging
right?
in. So we showed that and the campus approved it and they incubated us. So it became a part of the Manipal group.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense. At that scale, they might as well just adopt it home, like
Yeah,
as
so
a whole thing.
and we had millions of clicks. Like I'm not telling you the click count because it sounds a little cheesy to say, oh, I had 2 million clicks because once a user goes in, he'll click like easily like 10, 15 times before leaving, right? But still, we had like 2 million clicks in less than 3 months, right? So it was
That's still
something
a
that
crazy number.
yeah, it's
For sure,
something that saw
especially when
traction.
you're saying that it's just a campus of 8,000 students, and that is a big number, 2 million clicks in 3 months, and that too
Yep,
like all organically. So that's amazing.
all organically. Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
that's what started
Yeah,
happening and we started trying to grow it outside too. This was part of my journey across my third year and fourth year. So people used to actually be asking us like what's happening next and we used to tell them that we're growing it and then we finally bagged two clients across the city and
wow,
both of them onboarded with us too. So we had to build a whole new. It's like taking your imagine you bought HubSpot for your team, right? Now I have to make a HubSpot for a different college, so we have to integrate it, find a team that's integrating. So learned how to integrate. It was actually taking, a lot of our time, and that's a project like thing that we kind of did without really thinking about where it would lead to, what it would lead to, and then because fourth year finally came around and I graduated in 2020 with COVID, the two clients that we had to back off from our services. So that's
great.
that's where it came to an end more or less. But that journey in itself of working with people, hiring interns, pitching it to investors and the boards of colleges is what I spoke about in my SOP for a significant bit. Like my SOP, I think contains a decent amount of that journey. Obviously, I've tried to make it concise without, um, explaining everything in detail. So that could have been one of the factors which probably differentiated my application.
I think clearly I can see why. I can see the impact that it had, and
Yeah,
how it's not easy to do what you did. So that's awesome, man. I'm really happy for you.
thank you.
So, moving on to that. So, at Columbia, what was the application timeline like for you? What components of application did you have? Was it just essays that you had to write? Were there interviews? Were there video essays? What was that like?
Okay, Columbia's was really different in terms of the application. Obviously, we had one SOP, but
Mhm.
I tried copy pasting my SOP for Cornell and working it for Columbia, but it just didn't work because they had like some word limit which was very narrow. I think it was 750 words,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So 750 to max 1000, I can't remember, but it was 750,000, and it was
Hmm.
very tough to break that essay because everything else that I'd prepared for Johns Hopkins, Duke, Dartmouth, and Cornell, they were all like 2 pages, right? It was a 2 page SOP, but for Columbia it was really tough. So 750 words, and your intention or the prompt on the SOP is to show why you want to be a student at tech management. What do you think are your immediate and long-term career prospects, which obviously a lot of SOPs cover? And then the last question was, what do you think you would bring differently to the class? So these were 3 questions that they had asked as part of their prompt. So that's what you had to answer in 750 words. Right? So that was their essay. Second thing is they had 2 other small questions on the portal, right, which you can't upload to, which answers you have to physically type on the portal. I can't remember both the questions, but they were also along the lines of something that you've done which makes you more of a tech leader or somewhere where you display technical dominance, correct? So in one of those, I spoke about one of the clients that I'd worked with at MasterCard, and the other one of it, I really can't remember what the prompt was, but there were 2 separate questions. So the essay, 2 separate questions. The other part was letter of recommendations, which needed to be 2 academic, 1 professional. So obviously, I had a really good letter of recommendations, which I had through my friend who was a colleague previously for the professional one, and for the academic ones, obviously they were my faculty members. Besides that, I think there was one other part, very small part, is how are you applying to Columbia? Was there someone you know? So over there, you can put a
Oh,
teacher's
interesting.
name, you can put a faculty's name or someone who you've spoken to. So I put my friend's name who was already at Columbia. He was doing the program you're doing, computer science. So I said, and
Interesting.
it keeps going ahead. So I wrote XYZ recommended this program for me given my background, and he said that I would be a great fit. Thus, I'm applying for it. After doing my research, I've decided to apply for this program. So there's small,
I
like,
think this is
yeah.
something that has not come up in any application or like anyone I've spoken to
Yeah,
so
I
far. This is the
clearly
first.
remember it. I clearly remember it.
Right,
There
this
was
is
a
the
small
first.
prompt saying who helped you make the decision to apply, and there's a small box. You can write,
Right.
website, you can write LinkedIn, you can write whatever, and then you can choose other and write it. So I actually thought I'll write it because if
Wow.
somebody reads it,
Right.
I don't want any stone left unturned.
For sure. For sure.
And
Yeah.
then
Yeah. I mean,
once you
that's
submit all this, go ahead, sorry.
right. No, please, please, no. You can. You can. Yeah.
Yeah, so in the last part is the video essay. So once you submit all this, there'll be a video essay where you'll be given a prompt. It's a pre-recorded thing, like they just have some question ready and throws it at you, and you just answer it in like 60 seconds.
Got it. So, do you not have any kind of interview or something of that sort? Is this
No,
all there
no,
is?
I didn't have any scheduled interviews.
Got it. Fair enough. I think
Yeah,
that makes sense. That sounds more or less like how the Columbia's computer science application process also works, except
yeah,
those funky little parts like who like what made you pick the course or whatever. Those things
yeah,
are not
right.
typically there in our application. That's awesome. So, Kshitij, moving on, like you mentioned that the program is for people who want to move into product management or like a CTO role in general, or like, just managing an engineering team, a technology engineering team.
Yeah.
So, are there different specializations, or like how do people usually structure the course? Are there electives? Are there tracks? What is that?
Okay, so you have electives in your final sem. Besides that, our cohort is pretty much knitted together, right? So our first sem, we had 4 courses. We were all in the same courses. You can choose to pick additional ones on your own if you have an interest, particularly in one particular topic. But otherwise, the program structure is first semester is usually management courses, which I told you about. It's accounting and finance was one. There's a course called Digital Strategy and Leadership where we talk about how you implement digital innovation in a company, or how basically you can be a strategic innovator. Then there was a course for behavioral challenges in technology management, which seems to be a course which is a lot more to do with managing teams, personality types, like conflicts in teams, right? How when you're building a product, what are the different angles that you should consider, not just from a leadership standpoint, but also a consumer standpoint, right? And what are the repercussions it could have within your team on the broader scale? And then the last course was strategic advocacy. So these were 4 classes we had last semester. And on the contrary, this semester, it's been more technical driven all of a sudden without having a lot to do with management at all. So it's almost like they expect you to take that knowledge and keep it, store it in your think tank, and now focus on the tech aspects and marry them together in your final semester. So I'll come to the final semester, but for now, we have courses in AI/ML, which doesn't go as deep as the applied AI/ML goes, which we have through Vijay Papu. That's why I took it,
Right.
because of my personal interest. But we have a course for AI/ML too. We have one for leadership, disruptive leadership, right? So that talks about innovative tech which is coming in. So in that class, we literally have guest lecturers who come and talk to us about the biggest innovations that they've been bringing in, not just in New York, but across the United States. Like then we have something called operations and infrastructure management, so IT infrastructure. That's where a lot of our students are going through DevOps classes, right? Working with Google Cloud, working with shell scripting, making sure that if tomorrow you do work with a team which is in a technical front, you can not only just perform but also understand what type of operations go in. So it seemed to be repetitive for me, but a lot of our classmates do not have that technical background, right? So a lot of our classmates who come from different industries have never been in a tech role. Some of them have just experienced like basic level of HTML before, and for them this was a great class to get up to speed with the different ways that you can deploy a platform, right? You can scale it, like just like how we use AWS services, we were exploring the Google services in this class using Google Cloud. So that is another course. And then coming to your final semester, which you can choose now that we have the option to uh, cover the course in 1 year or 1.5 year, is a capstone, where you have the capstone's project idea is that you have to pitch a product, or it has to be a product, a business product, which you are building from scratch. What the product is, what its features are, what is its USP, what is the thing that it will sell for, what is its business model, how will it be priced for the market, everything and anything that can go behind and inside it. It's usually like the entire 2 months you have meetings with your capstone supervisor, where you discuss what your product is, how you're launching it, what you're building on, and then you work that out. So it covers everything, all the management parts you've learned, because you have to pitch it also. So the investor pitch should be a part of it. The product pitch should be part of it. A little bit of prototype is important too. So you will be needed to code at some point to show the prototype, because you will be graded on that too. So yeah, where is your GitHub sitting, right? Can we access it? Can you actually show me what the website will look like, right? So everything and everything gets married into the capstone. At the same time, in the capstone semester, which is the third semester, you have electives. So those electives is where you make it personalized to yourself. You want to get into cloud, pick up your cloud courses. You want to get into design, pick up your UI UX courses. You want to get into anything and anything for that matter, just pick it up. So that's the structure of the course, largely
Got it.
speaking.
Right. So when you say it can be completed in 2 semesters or 3 semesters, like 1 year or 1.5 year, what
So
is
no,
the
it
split
has to
of
be
the?
completed in 3 semesters. The way it can be 1 year or 1.5 year is this. So your first 2 semesters are regular, just like you guys have it in computer science, the fall semester,
Hmm.
then the spring semester. Now,
Got it.
in the spring semester's end, you have to decide what you want to do for the coming term. Now,
Okay.
that means you can choose to take the summer off, right? And do an internship,
Oh, got it.
right?
Right.
So you can take a nice summer vacation, or like do an internship and come back in fall and then do the capstone and the two electives,
Got it. Got
right?
it.
Or you can choose to not do an internship for people who have experience, because our cohort basically has a very diverse mix of people, right? Like you have people who are like me, who are like 20, the range of 23 to 26, and you also have students who are like 30 to 31 in that range too. And for them,
Mm.
the internship doesn't really make sense because they already have a lot of experience, so they want to graduate earlier. So for them, they would 99% just do the capstone in the summer, do their electives along with the capstone, and graduate in August. They can start working full time. But for other people who are interested, they can do the internship, come back in the fall, pick up the capstone, take a few electives with the capstone, and then graduate with the same timeline that you guys have at computer science in December.
Got
That's
it.
it.
I think
That's
that
the
makes sense.
split around it. And you can
That's a
also, the
difference.
third version of it is you can crunch yourself, do the
Okay.
internship, still do the capstone. So you want the internship experience,
Oh,
but you want to graduate earlier. So you can,
that's a lot of work, I think.
yeah,
Right.
you can just marry those two options, which I'm thinking of
Right.
doing. Depends how
Wow.
the
Okay.
internship scene pans out. So you do your
Right.
internship 40 hours a week, right? Like the
And you do your
CPT
capstone?
activated, and you
Right.
do your capstone with whatever time
Wow.
you can save, and you take an elective online. So you can put your internship
That
as one
sounds
elective.
like
Yeah, you can make sure that one internship, the one elective is allocated to the internship, then the capstone, then the other elective you'll have to take it online every Friday evening or every Thursday evening, whatever it is. And then in the 3 months you can finish internship, capstone, elective, you're done, you can graduate.
right. I think that sounds like a really hectic summer that
That, yeah,
it might
that
be.
could be the, end all summer.
Right,
Yeah,
right, right.
it
So,
depends on
Kshitij,
how you want to do it.
right, right. So when you're talking about having a capstone mentor or like an advisor from the industry and stuff like that, right? How does it work? Do you first come up with a project and then you search for which company you would want it to be adopted to? Or would it be that you would have a pool of mentors in companies and then you would pick one of them and like build a product for them?
Yeah, so by the end of this semester, we'll be told who is allocated which mentor. And then you have a meeting with the mentor where you come up with your prototype, and then he connects you to the people that they know in the industry who will be part of the capstone. So you can
Got it.
obviously, after the first call with your capstone supervisor, even choose which area you want to pick. And if he thinks that, hey, the other manager of another group knows that company
Mm.
better, they'll move you around. So like you could have been allocated to the same capstone mentor, but if you say you're interested towards blockchain, our capstone mentor will be like, hey, let me connect you to that capstone mentor because he might know more and his connections are broader in that area. So the pool will be made as per the discussions that you have with your capstone mentor, and then they will connect you to the industry leaders.
Right, right. I mean, that makes sense. So, Kshitish, you were mentioning at a point that there are students, of different experience, the different different years of work experience in the cohort. What is like more or less the average work ex like? Is it because you come with, I think, 3 years of work experience, right? Is that
3 years.
typical? Do you have people with no work experience as well? Like, what is that mix like?
Sure. Our class is really sweet, man. We have Ostap. He's from Poland, who has 0 years of work experience. He's 22. Then Tirtha comes with 1 year of work experience, and then at the other end we have Abhijit who comes with maybe 12 or 15 years of experience, right?
Right,
So big mix, and the average speaks around 25 to 26 years of age. So between 3 to 5 years is a good catch of your average work experience. That's usually the average that you'll see. Like a lot of classmates are around my age, right? So that uh, that
right.
that is true. Like a lot of people who come to the program definitely have work ex. That's the way the program filters out people to it. They do not really have a lot of people who are fresh out of college. At least 2 years or 3 years is seen.
Which makes sense as well. Which makes sense, right?
Yeah, because they want you to have a little bit of exposure towards working in the tech field, right? Only then will you really make the most out of a tech management program.
Correct.
So that's usually the split, but there are different ages, man. Like Gustavo's 31, Vinita's Shubham is 29, Vinita's 30, Abhijit's
Right. So you've
probably
got like
37.
the mix. You've
And
got
then
a good
it
mix.
plays beautifully because my doubts and the questions that I have, like what happened. So Abhijit who has worked at VMware, right? He was a
Right,
staff engineer at VMware. I
right,
literally use him as a mentor all the time. I'm like, Abhijit, tell me this, tell me that. He guides me.
right.
Then other people ask me because I come from a data engineering background. So whenever they have doubts around the data aspects, they ask me. Um, Kenisha comes from, a finance payments background at Goldman.
Hmm.
So yeah, we all help each other. It's a really nice
Makes sense.
cohort.
It sounds like a very well-rounded, batch.
Yeah, it's a really good batch. It's also very diverse, is one thing I would like to address, is that our students are like from all across, right? Like we have people from South America too, like Colombia. Gigi is from Colombia. Gustavo is from Chile. Martin is from Brazil. Then a couple of other people from Europe. We have Carlson from Germany. Canisius from London. Uh, Elias from Ilya is from
That
Israel,
is
Yossi is from Iran. Yeah, like
wow.
very
That's
beautiful mix.
right for sure. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, Kshitij, in general, right? So when these people have this amount of work experience, is it always in like around the tech space? You were mentioning that people come from finance as well. So what kind of finances were they in
So
core
they,
finance or were they like in
yeah, that's a
fintech
great
with
question.
technology?
They don't care about the industry, they care about your work being a little more technical. So you can do
Right.
technical work even in a logistics industry, correct?
Hmm.
So
So when you
that's
say
the way.
technical work, do you mean tech stuff related to technology, like some kind of software engineer kind of a thing, or is it just
No, no,
like
no,
you
no,
could
no.
be a logistics manager
Not
as well?
just
And
not just a software engineer, but people who
got it.
have basically used and know that they wanted to double down on their tech skills. That's what they're looking for,
Hmm.
and they're also looking
Got
for
it.
solid proof or solid backing that you have some experience working with tech. So that's
Right.
one thing that they have to prove in their SOP is
Hmm.
that this is what I did, this is where I lacked, or this is what I want to double down on. That's this program.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, coming towards the end of the episode, Kshitij. So, was there something you wish you knew before you came to the MTM program at Columbia? Very generic
Um.
question, but yeah.
Let me think about that one before I came to Colombia. I don't know, man. I mean, I think one thing that's hard to see where we stand is the benefit of the program right off the bat, right?
Hmm. Right.
Because many people ask me, like, weren't you, already having a great role? I'm like, yeah, it was actually a great role, to be honest. And there was no reason to leave it. I didn't have any reason to leave it. So to see the immediate fruits while you're still in the program is a little tough.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know how you guys play that question in computer science because I feel like even
Right.
in computer science, if you're working in India and you have a decent job, finding something here is also like
It's
you have to
starting
go
from
through
scratch. Yeah. It's
steps. Yeah,
yeah.
you have to go through the same steps.
Correct.
So in the long term, I'm hoping it will pay off because if you're
Hmm.
looking for instant gratification, like you graduate and you expect
Right.
yourself to be like this leading senior product manager at Apple, more or likely that's probably not going to
For
happen.
sure. Correct. Correct.
Right? You have to work your way there. So I
True.
think that is something that I kind of knew, but I should have thought about more before coming. Um,
Hmm.
and besides that, yeah, man, I think nothing else that really surprised me. I'd spoken to a lot of alumni before coming, so
Got
they
it.
were
So you knew what to
reassuring for
expect.
sure. Yeah, they were
Right.
reassuring, and seeing alumni do well kind of gives you a little bit of a boost.
Of course, for sure. So, Kshitij, is there something any last parting tip that you'd want to give to the applicants for Columbia or like any university who are looking
Absolutely.
for a product management thing? Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think the biggest tip would be to definitely clearly define what you're interested in. If you think product management is a great avenue for you to explore, this program seems to be something that can be a really good stepping stone for your career. Even the networks we get, like our faculties, have been so useful. Like, in fact, a big shout out to Marcus, Alexis, and a couple of other our faculty members like Douglas. Even now we have Stefano. They all bring in amazing people from, the industry. And when I say they bring in people, it's not just setting up a guest lecture. They become part of our network, right? Like I can get to them on a direct call basis or like, first name basis. So that is something that that's why I said it's hard to put a price on what you're getting into, right? People might
Right.
say, oh, you're paying so much money too, right? I'm like, yeah, you are, but you would have paid at any other college anyway. But to see the immediate rewards are tough. What these networks can help you with in a span of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you don't even know. So
For
have a
sure.
little bit of a more, see the longer or the bigger picture, as they say. Approach is what I would recommend anyone to have after they've decided for the fact that they want to be somewhat in the tech and management space. And it seems to be a
For
great
sure.
program for someone who isn't also interested in software that much. Because I
Makes
see a lot
sense.
of
Makes
our
sense.
classmates say that, we were done with software. So we wanted to
For sure. I
transition.
think the majority of product managers are the people who say they're done doing software engineering. So
Exactly, yeah. So I have
yeah.
a few classmates who say that too.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah,
So, Kshitij, you were mentioning about the fee. So that was the next question I had in mind. So,
absolutely.
how much is the tuition fees at the MTM program, and like how are you paying it? Are the scholarships? What are opportunities?
So, the tuition fee would be around 90,000 US dollars for the entire program
Mm-hmm.
across the 3 semesters. Um, and there are some scholarships, but they're merit-based. So as soon as you apply through your application, within 1 month or 2 months of joining, you'll be allocated a scholarship, right? There isn't any request-based scholarship because I requested a
Got
lot
it.
and I didn't get it.
Right. Right.
But yeah, it's based on merit. So if your profile is really stellar, you'll get it. So some of my classmates have got it, but percentage-wise, I would say it's less than 10% of people who get it. Like
Got it.
5 to 6 people in our class of 75 people have got it. So
Okay.
that's like,
Are there Indians among them, and like what kind of profile is that? Is it stellar in terms of work experience, or is it like stellar in terms of what they want to do and what they're doing at Columbia? Is how does that
I know
pan
only
out?
only one case really well, which is Shubham's.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
Shubham has software engineering experience, but a lot of work ex with him. So he's worked for 7 years
Mm,
almost, 6.5 to 7. And he worked for some company in Australia, some wireless telecom provider in Australia.
interesting. Okay.
Since he had international work ex while working in India, plus he worked for 6 years, and he's coming now, he got a really good scholarship. So he was able to
Makes
get
sense.
one good scholarship. But besides him, there are like just 4 or 5 other people whose
Got it.
details I don't really know well. But I
Sure,
think,
fair enough.
like you said, in his case, because he had good work ex, that helped him.
Right,
Yeah.
for sure. So you can typically say that these students get scholarship after they get admitted to the program and are in the program, is it? Like, so once the classes start, that's when the scholarships come out.
Yeah, it's got to do once you join in, and
Got it.
within
Fair
the
enough.
first month you'll get to know because that's when your payment portal gets activated for the fees and everything,
Right.
and you'll
So
see it
that's when.
directly there. It's not like you get an email.
Oh, oh,
It's
oh,
not like you
oh, oh.
get to know.
That's a new way I haven't heard of getting
Yeah.
scholarship.
Yeah.
Right. That's
I
cool.
think
That's cool.
you might have probably got an email too, but he told me that he saw it
Right.
directly there, so
Fair enough. Fair enough.
could be different.
So Kshitij, right. The last question I want to ask you before I know you're running late, so I don't want to, hold you for much
I'm
longer.
good on time, man. I'm good on time. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So, would you be comfortable sharing your GPA and your GRE score?
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
just
Please let the
yeah.
world know I was a no good GPA guy. I was pathetic when it came to my grades in undergrad. That's why I said
Uh-huh.
I should have probably never made it anywhere in life. I had
No,
a
that's a
CG
like fair statement, but okay, go on.
I had a CGPA of touching 7.02 at Manipal,
Okay.
so barely
Uh-huh.
crossed 7. When you put that
Right.
on the conversion scale of 4, it comes to 3.05. So I just
Right.
made the cut to apply to Cornell, Columbia, Dartmouth, Duke,
For
right?
sure. Right.
That's
Right.
how I made it. Like got lucky or whatever. My mom still hates me for the fact that I have such a low undergrad CGPA.
That doesn't matter now, does it?
All right, so yeah, so
Yeah.
it never mattered in my career too when I was working in India.
Right.
Nobody ever seemed to give a damn about the CGPA.
Yeah. For
But yes,
sure.
my
Yeah.
CGPA was on WES scale it's 3.05. On the Indian scale
Got
it's
it.
7.02. All right, so just
Right.
a bare 7 average CGPA guy, right? I was more into sports and more into
Fair
working
enough.
on
Right.
projects.
Correct. I
And
mean,
in terms
given
of
the stuff
given
you're talking about, right? The project at Manipal, I think any GPA, even a 6 would be fine. Like, having built that kind of stuff on that
no, but
scale,
my
it's
recommendation
fantastic.
to anyone watching this would be don't fuck up your CGPA, right? At
For
least
sure.
make sure you have an 8,
Yeah,
8.5, because that will
correct.
give you more scholarships too. Like Shubham, he would have had a
Right.
solid CGPA to support his experience too, right?
Correct. Correct. For
So
sure.
don't screw it up like I did, is the advice.
Right. That's literally what I tell everyone as well. Like, do whatever you want to, but as for a master's especially, just like have a decent GPA, an 8 and 8.5. You don't have to
Oh,
hit a
absolutely.
9.5, 9.8.
I
Like
think
it's never going to be like a thing that will decide whether you get in or not, but it's like a baseline you kind of need to always clear.
Absolutely. I think a lot of my application cycles would have also probably given me more scholarship had I had a better CGPA. So
Mm,
for sure.
makes sense. Makes
100%.
sense.
And in terms of competitive exams, we had to give the IELTS for this one because during that
Got
year
it.
and the year before, the master's
TOEFL.
exams were waived off. Like you didn't need the GMAT or the
Oh,
GRE.
Got
So
it.
I still submitted it because I had been preparing for a year before that too.
Got it.
So it depends whether you want to submit it or not. My IELTS was an 8 out of 9, and I gave the GRE, which was 320. And then
I think those kind of, yeah,
yeah, and then I'd
those
also
are good
given the
numbers.
GMAT, which I did not need to submit, but I just sent it
Okay.
anyway. So I sent it as part
Wow.
of my application.
Uh-huh.
Right. So
Crazy.
it
I mean,
was.
yeah, I think this kind of offset the GPA issue that might have
That's the reason I sent
arisen,
it,
right?
was to show that,
Yeah,
don't just
correct.
anchor yourself
Judge
or
me by,
benchmark
for
me
sure.
by my CGPA. So
Correct.
yeah, even if you
For
see, so
sure.
one big tip for people who want to offset CGPA would be your letter of recommendations, really mentioning everything you've done on your
Mm.
profile. So taking examples of leadership from my work, whatever I've written on my resume, picking one or two things and explaining how Kshitij did this or that is what my letter of recommendations did. One more tip I had, which I did with every college and it worked like a charm, was after
Hmm.
submitting the application, like after, let's say I submitted the application in November first week, right? So December first week, I'd email the admissions email wala saying I'm a current aspirant. I've already submitted my application. I recently did this at work. XYZ could be nothing that you've done at work. And I think this relates really
Not
well
recommended,
to,
guys, but okay, yeah.
yeah, like this relates really well to what the course can teach me more about, or one of the professors has done something particular in this space, and I would love to learn about it. So
Right.
one mail in December, wait for a few weeks, and then drop another one by the end of Jan, and that's what I
Interesting.
did.
That's a hack slash trick I hadn't really heard of. So this is a new.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
for
So I
sharing.
I I, I did that for every other college that I accepted to. It was the
Right.
same wireframe, just changed the name of the
For
college
sure.
and the
Right.
prof.
Right.
So that kind of
Right.
what it does is your
Interesting.
application's already gone in November, but you're
Correct.
still
Correct.
it's like
Your name pops
follow-ups.
up at least,
Yeah.
right?
So
Yeah.
it's in their head somehow.
Correct, for sure, for sure. Yeah, because even one of the previous episode where we were talking about the Columbia MBA program, so she was mentioning that when it was Mahima, so Mahima was mentioning that when she attended on-campus events that Columbia was hosting over here for people who want to apply, the adcom knew her by name. So when they see
Yeah.
your application and they know that, oh, this is that person. So when they can put a face to that application, it adds a lot of value and it can push
Oh, 100%.
you. Yeah, cool.
100%.
I think Kshitij, this was amazing conversation. I know it's gone for much longer than I had
No
anticipated or
worries.
like mentioned to you. And that's what happens with a lot of these conversations because they get interesting and like you're like, what I can add, I can tell more stuff to people. It's going to help them. It keeps
Yeah.
getting dragged on. So thank you so much for your time, Kshitij. This was fantastic.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. Hope this helps people and
Absolutely.
appreciate everything you're doing. So good job, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Anything
Thank you
else?
everyone for watching this.
Oh,
No,
go
I'm just
ahead.
going to close it out the
Sure.
podcast. So thank you everyone for watching this episode. If you like this, please hit the subscribe button and do share it with your